I'd like to call this Monday, July 18th meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners to order. Would Commissioner Jerry Simpson please give us the invocation and pledge of allegiance?
Bow with me if you wish. Almighty God, as we come together again, we give thanks for the many blessings we have received and ask your presence among us as we deliberate the issues facing our county. Having recently celebrated another year of our nation's independence, we pause to recognize the 148 years of this institution, the Board of County Commissioners. May all that we do bring honor to it. Help us to realize our responsibility to protect the endowment you have gifted to us. Help us to remain resolute in our efforts to protect the lives of our citizens. Lord, we are experiencing difficult days as a nation, and our prayers go out to the families and communities who have experienced firsthand the senseless killings of those who have sworn to protect. Lay your hand upon each of the men and women who serve here, our sheriffs, police, EMS, and firemen. Be with them and protect them as they seek to ensure our safety and security. Help us all to search our hearts and seek understanding, remembering your commandment that we love our neighbors as ourselves. Assist each of us to do our part to secure the blessings of liberty, recognizing that we are a government instituted among men and that we serve at the consent of the governed. As we create and apply the laws and ordinances of our county, grant us the wisdom to ensure they assist a free society rather than restrict it. And what is personal liberty if it does not draw after it the right to enjoy the fruits of our own industry? Thomas Jefferson said, "A wise and frugal government which shall leave men free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned, this is the sum of good government." Lord, help each of us to champion the cause of good government. May we never forget those who serve in our nation's military. Bless each of those who serve both at home and abroad. Help them to know we honor their sacrifice. Lord, there are many who went to serve and never returned, and many who returned less than whole. Bless them and their families, comfort them, helping them to know their sacrifice was not in vain. Finally, Lord, there are those among us who grieve, who are lonely, who are suffering financially, physically, emotionally. Help us to be conscious of their needs, and may they be comforted and healed through your love and grace. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next, we have employee recognition. What we do is we recognize our employees for their years of service, and I'll read through the list here and the employee's name and the division and then how many years. First, we have William Norris with the Sheriff's Office with 5 years service. We have Sharon Crook with Emergency Services, 10 years service. James Chafin with Community Services, 10 years service. Michelle Thomas, Register of Deeds. Michelle Thomas, Register of Deeds, 10 years of service. Jerry Carnes, Sheriff's Office with 10 years of service. James Godwin, Sheriff's Office with 20 years of service. Kyle Hill, Sheriff's Office with 20 years of service. Dan Rogers, Sheriff's Office with 20 years of service. We have July retirements. We have Kevin Williams of Social Services, 10 years, and Mary Rhodes with Board of Elections for 15 years. Thank all those employees and retirees. Next, we'll have a public hearing on a conditional rezoning for Harkey Creek.
Mr. Matthews.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. On this actual public hearing, the applicant had contacted us several days ago requesting that the hearing actually be continued. They've had an issue with their representative who would do the presentation not being able to come tonight. However, the advertising for the hearing had already gone out. We explained to the applicant that they could make the request, but they'd have to make it here to the board, that we couldn't guarantee that the continuance would come. We do, at the staff level, recognize that they do have some concerns, and I think we would support their request for it. However, in talking to our legal staff, it may be prudent to at least open the hearing, allow anyone who may be here to speak, because obviously they've come here tonight, and then you could continue the hearing if you so choose, and we would then send out notices to adjacent property owners again as a courtesy for the next hearing date that would be set on this. So the applicant has made a request. Actually, he's not here. He's actually delayed. There are some folks that were here, part of it, but the applicant himself is not available at this time. He's on the way. So I'm making the request on their behalf. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I do have some information on the project if you want me to go through it. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. So we'll open the public hearing. Anybody here that, I don't have anybody signed up. So without anybody signing up, is there anybody that wishes to speak for or against? Okay, and then since we don't have anybody here to speak for or against, you're saying that we don't do any action on this tonight, we'd wait until they re-advertise it?
We would not technically re-advertise. We would send out mailed notices to adjacent property owners. If you would be happy to announce the date of the meeting tonight, which they've asked for that to be continued to your August 1st meeting, if that's appropriate for the commissioners or acceptable. And so if you'd announce what that is tonight, and then we'll mail out notices to adjacent property owners, but continue to keep the hearing open at least unless someone else wants to come and speak at the meeting on the 1st. That's would be my recommendation.
So do we recess the public meeting?
Mr. Chairman, the board would need to take action to continue the meeting to a date and time certain. So if it be August 1st, you need to specify the time the board would need to vote. If you do that, it does not have to be re-advertised, although as Mr. Matthews said, that they may provide courtesy notice. But
So if we said we were going to do it August 1st at 7 p.m., have all the public
here.
hearing?
You need to vote to continue it to the date and time certain.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion, we move this public hearing to the August 1st at 7 p.m. to take action by the Board of Commissioners.
That good? All those any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, thank you. Let's see. Next, we have the public hearing for Henson Falk, PA, to comment regarding requests for refunds of overpayments of excise tax paid to the Register of Deeds Office. Is anyone present who wishes to comment from Henson Falk? Nobody's in attendance? Okay, if not, we'll move on to informal. We'll place that item, we'll be putting that on the consent agenda. We'll consider that under consent agenda, and we'll move on to informal comments. I don't have anyone signed up for informal comments. So next, we'll go to additions, deletions, and our adoption of the agenda.
Chairman, I'd ask that we move item number 14 to the regular agenda for discussion. And also I'd ask for item 26, the resolution for Western Union's 50th class reunion, to regular agenda as well.
Okay.
And as we discussed, I'd ask that we move 28, planning update, to our next meeting. And the manager and I had some conversations about having Mr. Kusecki present some information. I think we've got some great information, and our citizens need to understand what we're doing. And that might be 28 and 29 because it's water, wastewater.
Well, they are two different plans. You and I had discussed wastewater, but certainly
Yeah.
Whatever the board's desire is.
No time sensitivity on those?
There's some time sensitivity, but the August 1st
We'll do
meeting,
it.
we're fine.
Let's move those to items 36A for number 4 for consent agenda item 14, and 36B for the proclamation. And we're going, the request was to delete item 29 or 28, 29 from this agenda, and move it to the 1st of August. Okay. Any other additions, deletions, and adoption? Okay. Commissioner.
I'd like to add a discussion and request an update on the VFD contract.
And we'll put that item 36C. Okay, and for the consent agenda, we need to add that now, or do we need to wait till we get to the consent? Okay, any other additions to the agenda or deletions to the agenda? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? So next, we'll go to additions, deletions, and our adoption of the agenda. Commissioner.
Chairman, I'd ask that we move item number 14 to the regular agenda for discussion. And also, I'd ask for item 26, the resolution for Western Union's 50th class reunion, to regular agenda as well.
Okay.
And as we discussed, I'd ask that we move 28, planning update, to our next meeting. And the manager and I had some conversations about having Mr. Gusecki present some information. I think we've got some great information, and our citizens need to understand what we're doing. And that might be 28 and 29, because it's water, wastewater.
Well, they are two different plans. You and I had discussed wastewater, but certainly
Yeah.
Whatever the board's desire is.
No time sensitivity on those?
There's some time sensitivity, but the August 1st
We'll do
meeting,
it.
we're fine.
Let's move those to items 36A for number 4, for consent agenda item 14, and 36B for the proclamation, and we're going, the request was to delete item 29 or 28, 29 from this agenda, and move it to the 1st of August. Okay. Any other additions, deletions, and adoption? Okay, Commissioner.
I'd like to add a discussion and request an update on the VFD contract.
And we'll put that item 36C. Okay, and for the consent agenda, we need to add that now, or do we need to wait till we get to the consent? Okay, any other additions to the agenda or deletions to the agenda? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay, there is a resolution that we need to add to the consent agenda. Does everybody have a copy of this, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay, and that would be item 30.
It goes with item 30.
Just item 30. Okay, any other items on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent as amended, adding the resolution.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, next we are on to old business, which there is no old business. Then we have item 36, appointment to Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
motion we appoint Kristen Seaford to the Park and Rec Committee. I've known Kristen for many years, and she brings a very unique perspective to the Park and Rec Committee, and she'd be a great asset to the county.
Any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of Kristen Seaford for the appointment to the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay. Next, we have item 36A, which is item 14 from the consent agenda. Mr. Helms, you asked to bring this off?
Yeah, I was reading through the contract on that, and I'd like some more information because unfortunately it seems like a bucket of money and we don't know where it's going to be spent. And coming out of the service arena myself, a lot of this information you can have advanced projections on cost and equipment. So I'd like to understand that better.
Okay. Where we are is you have audiovisual equipment in this room, in our training room. You have 8 courtrooms plus the grand jury room in the judicial center plus the cooperative extension center. All of those systems are at least 10 years of age and are failing or continue to be very high maintenance. This particular contract is got a number of different aspects to it. One is to evaluate our present system and to make recommendations as it relates to what the replacement should look like. And that replacement includes designing, doing the installation, as well as maintenance of any new system that is installed. The reason it is in the form that it is was versus going out spending money on someone to do the evaluation and then going back with an RFP to actually then have someone come in and do the design and the installation. It has all been wrapped into a single contract.
Well, you know, when I looked at the locations, I don't disagree that they need adjustments, improvements. It's just I was hoping that if they went through the RFP and looked at these particular things, I can't imagine them not coming down and making an observation.
There were, my understanding is there have been some walkthroughs, but evaluation to the extent that you are speaking of with respect to actually looking at the various pieces of equipment, ensuring that we have some compatibility among our equipment, not to that extent, no sir.
It mentions the life of the agreement. What is the term?
The term is till June 30th of 2019, and then there are 2 one-year renewals within the agreement.
Is there a list of recommended equipment that came out of the proposals?
I did not actually look at the proposals, but no, I do not believe there was. They felt that the first order of business was to actually go in and evaluate each of the systems, what the needs were, and make recommendations as it related to, based upon the needs of each of the systems and how they're used.
So what was their presentation? What did they present as far as, when the 2 presentations came back, were they presenting what they were going to do, what they thought they needed to do?
And I did not sit through the presentations, and as you can see, Mr. Yates is not here this evening, so I cannot answer that specific question. If you look at the background of the agenda item as it related to the request for proposal, which asked them to pretty much do what the contract is before you, which is to come into Union County, evaluate our various systems, make recommendations to us as to what systems needed to be replaced, and we're assuming all systems are going to have to be replaced based upon the age and the issues we continue to have with our system. For example, we have digital cameras out here, but we have analog equipment within our equipment room behind us. Then they would present the design options to us, the equipment to us, as it relates to what they believe each of those venues need to have, and we would either accept, reject, ask them to look at others, and then so it is a process which will be evolving. There is not, because of the fact that we don't have anyone on staff that has that type of knowledge, and we have relied very heavily on a prior contractor to come in and do a lot of the work on the equipment. This is, in essence, giving us a full scan of everything that we have and making recommendations as to what needs to be replaced and what it needs to be replaced to, because what the Ag Center needs versus what we need in this room versus what the courtrooms need can be very different.
The it's $550,000, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're talking about basically a 2-year contract.
Yes,
Two,
sir.
almost 3.
Which includes the equipment acquisition as well as ongoing maintenance, parks, warranty, as well as technical support and repair.
What if we burn through that the first year? I mean, not having any variables to identify how it
Well,
lasts that period of time. I don't want another stadium this year.
Well, I would hope that you could rely upon your staff to ensure that what we receive is what we need for the organization, that meets the needs of the organization, and that it is within the confines. I mean, they will present the information to us once they go through and evaluate the entire system. We will then go back through and determine what those service levels are, et cetera. So I don't know that I can be any more definitive because of where we are in the process. But I can tell you that probably alone, you may have, I think alone in the Ag Center, we know that we have at least $100,000 worth of needs just in the cooperative extension.
I don't disagree with the need. That's not the point. I just don't want to find out in 12 months that we need another $500,000.
That certainly is not staff's intent.
Is there a scope of, I mean, when I look at the scope of work, it doesn't really spell out anything other than,
To come in and do the evaluation, then to do the design, do the installation. I think those were the aspects that I remember on the scope of work.
but it doesn't say what needs to be installed. It's recommendations on upgrades, design and install upgrades to audiovisual equipment as requested by union to maintain all of the equipment.
There is an exhibit within there that identifies where all the audiovisual is located. For example, in the Judicial Center, there are the 8 courtrooms, plus the equipment rooms, plus the grand jury room and the grand jury equipment room. It identifies this room as well as our equipment room, the training room. It identifies cooperative extension. So it identifies the needs within each of those. It does give a time frame for response if we need a repair. I think it's a 4-hour response that they have to show up at the facility to do necessary repairs. Those are the things that I'm kind of remembering off the top of my head.
Any other questions on that item? Anybody want to make a motion on that item?
Make a motion, we authorize the county manager to approve an agreement with Intertechnology Corporation to provide audiovisual design, build, and maintenance on existing and future Union County systems for an amount not to exceed $550,000.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
3-2. Okay, next we have the proclamation for Western Union County High School, or Western Union High School. Commissioner Helms, this was an item that you had started or began work on, so if you'd like to describe what we're doing and present that proclamation.
Yeah, Western Union High is getting ready to celebrate a significant event, and I think I'm the only one in this room right now that has been through that process. A 50th class reunion is significant. So I'd like to read Western Union High School, August 6, 2016. Whereas Western Union High School was established in 1939 under the leadership of J.W. Brown and became an elementary school in 1969. And whereas the committee to form Western Union High School is planning a 50th class reunion on Saturday, August the 6th for the graduating class of 1966. And whereas the celebration of the reunion include a banquet on Saturday, August 6th at Rolling Hills Country Club at 2722 West Roosevelt Boulevard, Monroe, and a church service on Sunday, August 7th at Piney Grove Baptist Church, West 6712 Sims Road in Waxhaw, North Carolina 28173. Now, therefore, the Union County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the weekend of August 6th and 7th, 2016, to be the Western Union High School weekend in the Union County, North Carolina, and extends a cordial welcome to all former class members and best wishes for the most enjoyable and memorable occasion adopted on this day in July 2016. I'd like to make a motion that we accept this resolution. And
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
And I'd like to have the opportunity to present this to one of
Please.
my classmates.
Please do.
Viva, I told you I was going to mess it up.
Now, Richard, she's nowhere near your age.
No, she didn't. But I tell you what, I told her a while ago, there's no way, I don't believe that she graduated in 66. I graduated in 64, and you're going to get to that class reunion and say, who are all these old people? But again, on behalf of the Union County Board of Commissioners, I'd like to present this resolution to you, and I hope we'll see you tomorrow night. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And I do not believe you're old enough to be in class of 66.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next, we have item 36C, which is an update on the VFDs, the contract negotiation. Commissioner Akins asked for this to be added on.
I don't care who provides it, but somebody's going to provide me with an update.
Mr. Akins, as you know, the board took action when last we met, I believe it was, to add certain language to the draft contract. After that, we had 8 departments to sign the agreement. I think we have 9 departments who are still outstanding. We have raised the remaining issue with regards to disposition of assets on termination of the contract. We feel like the fire departments have legitimate concern, especially with, for example, Wesley Chapel, that provides services to now the town of Weddington, and how that should be addressed. We've received some language from the fire departments that we have analyzed and made comments on. We have some language that we'd like to propose back to them. We had scheduled a meeting for today. The fire department's asked if we could defer that until next week. What we plan to do after meeting with staff this morning is to prepare comments to send out tomorrow to their attorney through me. I don't know if Ms. Lancaster would like to address how she'd pursue it as well. But explaining the county's position on both their draft and proposing language that would replace what they've suggested.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. I was
Go ahead.
just going to add that one of the other directions that we received at the June 29th meeting was to evaluate at the end of 30 days if, in fact, we still had departments who had not signed the agreement, to evaluate how we would provide service in the future, since the contracts have now been extended for a year. And so staff is working on that, and depending on where we end up at the end of 30 days, we will be prepared in the next month or so to bring you some alternatives if that is still the board direction as it relates to ensuring that the residents of Union County continue to receive service.
So let me make sure I understand. So we sent the contract, we got additional wording back, not related to anything else that we've discussed. And now we're going to go back again tomorrow.
Yes, sir, we're still trying to negotiate a contract.
I guess, my concern is we do keep going back and forth on this. And at some point, we have to, why I don't think there's anybody on here, myself included, that doesn't appreciate the service that they provide. We also have to provide service to the residents of Union County. And my concern is we just continue to elongate this process. And I think we've far surpassed our courteous level of diligence. I think the letter to the board attorney tomorrow needs to be very clear that this is our best offer, and this is what we need to move forward on. So I would make a motion to add that language to the direction to the attorney, directing our attorney to, just make their attorney aware that we are at our end, that this is what needs to be agreed upon, and we need to put this thing to rest once and for all. So I will make the motion that we add that language.
All right, any discussion?
I think one thing's important to understand, that since our last meeting, there's been no meetings. I know that I can tell you for communication with fire departments that when this Lancaster got involved, things started moving. And that was face-to-face meeting with the participants. Nothing against the attorneys, but the recognition. I don't disagree with Commissioner Akmus that this is drug on too long, and we don't need to be changing each time. But I think it's important that Ms. Lancaster, that's developed that relationship, sit down in the very near future. And my understanding is they want to wait and meet next week. I think we should request the fire departments to come to the table sooner, because that 30 days is running out. In the first 2 weeks, we did not have staff available to have those conversations. But I think I don't want to be like the current national administration and go edicting. I'd like to continue with the dialogue that, Michelle, I know you've had some good dialogue with the fire departments, and I'd like to see that continue. I'd like to see it move forward. We've got very little time next 2 weeks, but I don't think it's appropriate to send them an edict. This is it. This is what we're going to do. That's
Well, and I respect your position. I will, however, claim exemption. I'm nowhere near the Obama administration.
that was not intended.
Okay, well, I just want to be real clear.
No,
on
that was not intended.
But I think we all agree that we've elongated this far too long.
Totally agree.
And so all I'm asking is that we just need to be very clear in our language to the attorney that we're not entertaining anything else as far as this added language that they want to send back. I have no problem with us continuing to negotiate the contract as it was agreed upon and signed by the 8 departments. My concern is I don't want us not to send the language that allows them to think that we're going to continue to negotiate things that have not yet been discussed.
I don't disagree with you.
So that's all I'm asking for in this language.
What happens is you lob over one email and another email comes back, and that's how you get it. The progress was made when Michelle sat down with them face to face.
And I think there's been great progress made, but I think it's also inherent on us as we protect the citizens of Union County to ensure that we move this contract down the road. And so that's why I'm asking for this language.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Jerry
I
Sines?
just want to be clear on the intent of Commissioner Agnes's motion. as I understand it, there was one item that we were still negotiating,
Disposition of assets.
and we received information after we took action that opened new doors. So I agree with Mr. Eggmans. We don't need to be opening, and I'll support his motion. Do not need to be opening more doors, but we certainly allow staff to continue to negotiate those items that we had been willing to discuss. Now, is that the intent of the motion?
That is absolutely the intent.
Is your motion that the document that our attorneys are going to send on tomorrow is the final thing? It's not negotiable?
No, I said the attorneys will continue to negotiate what is left that we agreed on the contract. What I want to be very clear is that what we have agreed on up to this point is what we're discussing. We're not going to entertain additional information and changes to the contract. Is that fair to the council? Do you understand what?
I understand, sir.
Everybody, my comment would be, the language, then that includes the language of the dissolution, or is that's not new? That was what we talked about at the last meeting, right? So being able to do mergers and not trying to hinder them from doing mergers is part of the discussions that you're having right now.
Yes, sir, I believe that's related to the disposition issue.
Right. That there's no desire for, this board is not showing any desire that we prevent them from merging or doing anything of that nature, right? Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Thank you. Okay, next we have consideration of appointments for, received for the vocational rehabilitation representative on the Central Carolina Workforce Development Board. That's item 37. We have,
I'd make a motion that we reappoint Mary Walls to fill the position that she's reapplied for
okay,
on the Central Carolina Workforce Development Board.
all right. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? None. Okay, next we have county manager's comments.
No comments this evening, Chairman?
Commissioner Jerry Simpson?
I would just like to voice my congratulations to Western Union as well. I'm not near as old as Richard, but
Grace of God.
but I did grow up at Jackson Elementary and Prospect Elementary during that day and time, and I certainly recognize the days of Western Union High School and the many leaders that came out of that school and served our county and in leadership positions and made our county grow and prosper. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Richard Helms?
Yeah, a couple items. First, I want to state my support of our law enforcement, local and state and national, and pray that this senseless actions against law enforcement stop, and I pray that we move forward and rejoin as a unified country again. And then secondly, I'd like to thank the town of Waxhaw. They held their 4th of July parade, and they chose to honor Vietnam-era veterans. And I had the privilege of participating in that. And I got to ride with the veterans. And that means a lot to veterans of that era. And people don't understand what it means to be thanked for your service. I was wearing, I've got an Air Force hat. I was Air Force. And walking through a shopping center, and someone stopped me and thanked me for my service. Well, I try to do that myself, but I've never had somebody stop me, to recognize me. And it's very meaningful. So I ask that we all recognize our veterans, and I'll tell you, I thank Commissioner Lance Simpson for his service in the Navy. We all serve the same country, and I know that I am, and Lance as well, is proud of the opportunity to serve this country. But I want to thank Waxhaw for taking the initiative to recognize these individuals.
Commissioner Lance Simpson?
I just want to say thank you to Richard for the comments. I know it means a lot to myself and to all veterans. I think that sometimes the veterans are overlooked, and I appreciate their service. They do a lot. There's a lot of people who gave a lot, and they continue to give day in and day out. And again, to our law enforcement, thank you for doing what you do day in and day out. Sometimes it can be a thankless task, but I am convinced that the majority of people in this country are in full support of law enforcement. It is only a small minority that use it differently. So I wish you all the very best tonight. Thank you for coming out, and be safe with your families.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Akins?
I appreciate you gentlemen's comments. With that, I wish everyone a good evening.
Okay. I'd like to say something that probably this week and in the future is going to need to be said. When we look at what's happened to law enforcement officers all over the country, and we look at the division, I guess, in our communities right now, we talk about this in our classes, and it's something that people don't think about. But when you're pulled over by a police officer, or sheriff's deputy, or highway patrolman, you know, we think about that being an inconvenience to us, but we don't see what that person's seen that day. And they see some pretty bad things. So if you ever get pulled over, if you're being stopped, realize that respect and cooperation go a long ways. And even if that officer's had a horrible day and seen horrible things, and he may not be the nicest to you, you may not feel like what he's saying is right or wrong or whatever, respect and cooperation are going to go a lot further than trying to start something on the side of the road. You know, we tell our gun owners, you never argue the Second Amendment on the side of a highway. It's not the right place. If you feel like you're being treated unfairly, talk to the guy's boss. Don't talk to that officer that day. Do all you can to make this a easy experience for both of you. And again, you know, whether he's seen a child molested by their parent, or he's seen a child burned or committed suicide that day, you know, just respect what he's gone through that day, and try to make this a better place. They do a hard job. I had a couple meet me at our business this week. We thought we had a break-in. We had an alarm. They stayed with me. We checked out everything. Everything was fine. But they were there when I called, and they were there when you as Union County citizens were called. So let's thank them for the work that they do. It's a hard job. If it was an easy job, everybody'd do it, right, guys? So thank you for what you do. And with that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.